You're gonna die in there! All of you! You are gonna die!
This film is full of ghouls and ghosts and spirits, but that man's face is the scariest. Welcome, y'all. Taylor James Johnson here, and I'm loving the 80s, because the 80s was a very scary decade for many reasons, and one of those reasons was Poltergeist. Number 2. That's right, they made a sequel to the classic horror film Poltergeist for some reason, and it's not completely horrible. There's actually some pretty interesting spooky moments here and some cool character design. Yeah, the effects are a little dated, but that actually makes it better. And this time, they go underneath the house, into the underworld, and have to fight like a killer cult or something. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff in this one that really terrified me when I watched it. Actually, I'm thinking of the first one. But this one has some cool stuff too. So let's revisit it. Poltergeist, Uno, Dos, 1986. The greatest year in all of the years in history. No, it wasn't.
Sequels are hard. I mean, hey, look at my last 5 years. But they're also inevitable, especially when the first film becomes classic. Calling 1982's Poltergeist a success is an understatement. The Spielberg produced and Hooper directed masterpiece was one of those rare transcendent horror films. It made $121 million on a $10 million budget. It got high critical praise, including 3 Oscar nominations, although E.T. ate its lunch at this ceremony, winning in all 3 categories that night. We won't get too much into the long-argued rumor about Spielberg actually directing. It's credited as Tobe Hooper. It does have some of his director trademarks, but there's also a pending director strike, and so Spielberg was on set as a producer in case the strike happened. Or get into the supposed curse the series carries with it, and the quick answer is it doesn't exist. But Poltergeist is an 80s classic, so of course it would get the franchise treatment. And of course they aren't as good as the first entry. I mean, Poltergeist 3 is kind of a mess, although it has its moments, and we'll probably get to that someday too. Great practical effects, and if you live in the area and you haven't taken your girl or guy to the signature room for a date, you're lying. The remake commits the cardinal horror sin of being lifeless and boring, and better off forgotten in the remake purgatory. Today's entry is Poltergeist II: The Other Side, which came out 4 years after and had most of the same cast, still doubled its budget, and even received an Oscar nomination for Best Visual Effects. So why not the same love? While it carries the same wonderful effects, performances, and a great scoring by the legendary Jerry Goldsmith, it's the things that film lacks that brings it down, some for audiences and critics alike. Poltergeist 2 opens with the camera panning to the empty spot where the Freeling family's house once stood. The entire community has become home to an archaeological dig site to investigate the famous burial ground that caused all the events of the first film to take place. Tangina, the oft-quoted psychic from the first film, finds out that a cave exists under the house and seeks out her friend Taylor, who happens to be a Native American shaman. Taylor goes to see the cave for himself and gets his vision reaffirmed that something terrible is still out there. He needs to go see the Freeling family, who have now relocated to Phoenix to live with Diane's mother, Jess. This is the first part of the movie that just feels off. While almost all the principal players return, Craig T. Nelson, Jo Beth Williams, Heather O'Rourke, and Oliver Robbins as the various members of the Freeling family, Dominique Dunne was tragically murdered by her ex-boyfriend weeks after the first film came out. And honestly, I really don't know the right way to handle it. But the film just retcons her character altogether. No recasting and no mention of her whatsoever. I don't know, it just doesn't sit right. The family has gone back to a regular life, and in a fun nod to the original says f*** it when it comes to owning a TV, which, tough call for me, even after the serious haunting took place.
Did you see that, Robbie?
No, Dad, I didn't see it.
Well, you gotta use your imagination, son.
It's also here that the film tries to shoehorn in a subplot about the girls in the family, Jess, Diane, and Carol Ann, being psychic. I get that a lot of horror movies were going with that angle, but it takes some of the luster away from the first film by giving us an unnecessary why. Diane and the kids go shopping, and it's there that we meet the principal villain of the movie, and is one of the best reasons we're defending it here today. Both the character of Reverend Kane and the performance by Julian Beck are just flawless. He's kind, creepy, and all around unnerving. Kane's an insane character that ended up killing his entire religious cult, and Julian Beck absolutely gets lost in the character. We see early on that he is powerful. He makes himself visible to the family, but can hide from everyone else and pass through them as a spirit. Sadly, just passes away that evening, and then it is on.
They're back!
A massive storm cloud hovers over the Freeling house, and Carol Ann's toys begin to get a case of the spirits. And the family decides to nope right the f*** out of the house, but Taylor arrives to tell them that running doesn't matter. And it isn't the house that is haunted, it's them. The next day, the family is visited by the still very creepy and now singing Reverend Kane, who asks to be invited into the house. Oh man, no fucking way.
No. Let me in.
Another showcase for both Beck and Nelson here, as they have a bit of a verbal standoff. Kane tries to bait him in with his cult leader swagger. Steve is able to resist the hypnotic leader, and Kane temporarily gives up. That night, though, Kane goes on an all-out assault on the family, and we get to see the other main star of the movie, its special effects. First, we get Robbie's braces going full Tetsuo, while Taylor is seemingly standing by. He later explains that he was protecting Carol Ann, as she is the one who Kane is ultimately after. Taylor decides that before he takes his leave, he needs to teach Steve the power of the smoke, and a ceremony that will help him defeat Kane. Leaving Steve and the family after teaching him this technique, Steve drowns his sorrows with a bottle of tequila, as you do, and even swallows the worm like a champ. That worm, though, goes full Freddy Krueger, becomes possessed by Kane, which is one of the best parts of the movie. Craig T. Nelson acting as Kane, acting as Steve. It's creepy, heartbreaking, and an interesting switch up for Mr. Nelson.
'Cause I am smart. Oh, Mommy Jess.
Then we get the Kane worm Steve vomits up, that transforms into a humanoid thing that would give the Deadites the creeps. The family gets it together to escape the home, only to have the garage itself attack them on their way out. The Freelings make their way back to the site of their old house, and go into the cave to try and stop Kane once and for all. This is where JoBeth Williams gets her big moment in the movie. We've been shown scenes earlier of her having flashbacks of her time with her mom, and of what Reverend Kane did to his people. But here, at the site of their deaths, she starts to feel it. She displays an anger and an agony that really makes you want to take down Kane yourself. Thankfully, not only has Taylor returned, but Tangina has come as well. Carol Ann and Diane are sucked away into a phantom zone. No, really. It looks like the prison that Zod and the other two Kryptonians bust out of in Superman 2. Here are the effects that don't hold up so well, but honestly, isn't that always the case? Stan Winston made 80s magic hold up nearly 4 decades later, while computer graphics from the late 90s look archaic by contrast. Give me matte paintings and practical effects all day. It's a shame too, because most of the other special effects in this film, done by a handful of Oscar-winning artists, absolutely killed it on the practical side. Taylor uses his power to send the rest of the family through to take on Kane, who now looks like the creature from The Thing started mixing with the Cenobites. And while the family watches on, as Carol Ann apparently drank from the wrong grail, Taylor sends a weapon through for Steve to defeat Kane once and for all. While they appear to lose Carol Ann, she is brought back by the spirit of the matriarch Jess. Listen, I get what they were trying to do here. I really do. But ultimately, the movie ends up feeling like a retread of the first film. A lot of what was missing came down to originality of the concept, and missing a lot of the key contributions. Going from Tobe Hooper and Spielberg as directors to anybody was going to change things. But instead of plugging in another genre guarantee, Brian Gibson stepped up to the plate. Gibson had done a ton of music videos, but really couldn't make anything stand out, even if he didn't actively hurt it either. We've seen success come out of music videos before, but it didn't translate this time, and he really didn't do that much after. Even more baffling is that 2 of the 3 writers in the first movie carried over to pen the sequel. Now, the third one that didn't, guess who that is? That would be Steven Spielberg. To no one's surprise, he added a lot of magical moments that resonated in the first movie. The man has a golden touch. The acting here is mostly fine. With a less captivating script, it's hard to push it as far to stand out more. I know. I mentioned Craig T. Nelson and JoBeth Williams, but I really can't undersell how much of this movie Julian Beck steals. Tragically, he was dying of stomach cancer and passed before this movie was released. This may have been his one major horror role, but I guarantee anyone who has seen this movie won't soon forget Reverend Kane. Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, is unnecessary to be sure, but, and I can't stress that enough, but that doesn't mean it deserves any hate. It's incredibly hard to be a sequel, especially to a bona fide classic. There's a reason we only have a handful of Godfather 2s and Aliens in this world. Because following gold is difficult enough, but to expect to be better? Forget about it. Poltergeist 2 is worth your time and is a black sheep worth celebrating.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. Joe Blow was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.